Well, welcome to our newest edition of Leadership Connection webinar series. What an honor to be here. And today, again, I have the privilege to share one of the most interesting topics that we may be addressing these days. And it is related to the opportunity we have to explore trends in what we do. We're going to be addressing leadership trends. Do you know when to take action? Be a thought leader with a special guest speaker we have for today, Dr. Almarie Donaldson. I get to introduce myself and also Dr. Kelly, and before we move on. So I am Jesus San Pedro, and I am Program Director and Associate Professor for the Master of Arts in Leadership degree here at Mid-America Christian University. And I am excited to have the opportunity to connect the dots between wonderful speakers, topics that we all need to lead properly, and at the same time leverage learners from around the world that are interested in these topics as they move on in their careers and in their leadership and their lives. I'm here in Oklahoma City, and once again, I have the honor to share and to be your co-host and moderator for this activity, together with Dr. Kelly Resemy, who's the program director and professor for the MBA program. And on behalf of our university, specifically and especially on behalf of our School of Business Leadership, we want to welcome you. We want to welcome you to this new edition of our webinar series, which has been a great experience, and we've had wonderful people, and today is not going to be any different. So glad to be here with you, Dr. Resemy, today, and thanks for being here too.
Well, thank you. And it's always wonderful to be here with you, Dr. San Pedro, where you have created this great opportunity for our students, our faculty and staff, and also the extended community to join us for leadership topics. And my name is Kelly Resemy. I'm in Lenexa, Kansas. So we are reaching around to each other to present this, and I'm so thankful to be here. Leadership Connection is a monthly open space where local, national, and international organizational leaders and guest speakers connect and engage in transformative conversations around leadership topics. And I'm excited about our guest today, Dr. Almarie, and I am excited to hear what she has to say about some of the leadership trends that you and I are observing in the literature and in interacting with business people in our communities. And we'd like to welcome those in the business community who have joined us, and international ministries and people in other areas of academics who join us in this conversation. And our audience does play an important role in participating and sharing this forum with others around their communities. So if you see us on LinkedIn or any other social media sites, please share that information, share the announcement with others, because we'd like to expand our community of discussion. And each month we have these wonderful leaders that are thought leaders, as Dr. San Pedro mentioned, and they provide cutting edge insights for us about Christian leadership. And our goal is to equip our audience with the latest and most relevant topics relating to leadership and building the kingdom of God. And we hope you enjoyed this unique MACU leadership model of community learning. And throughout all of our webinars, our hope is that we bring the world to MACU and take MACU to the world. So I want to thank ministry and corporate leaders for taking the time to join us today. If you're from another part of the country or from around the US, thank you for joining us. And we are online for your convenience. It's recorded, and you can find our recording at our MACU Leadership Connection website. Mark your calendars for every third Thursday of the month at noon Central Time. Grab some lunch, join us. It's 1 hour. And we encourage you to stay till the end of the presentation so you can interact with our our guest speaker today and with us. And if you do stay to the end and participate, you will be eligible to win a special gift.
Wonderful. And before I introduce the topic and the guest speaker, I want to make a connection with what we do here at Mid-America Christian University. And as it is connected to our mission and is related to the fact that we are committed to create, to collaborate, and to innovate, to solve local and global problems for the glory of God through Jesus Christ and the good of society. This topic of today, one of the main reasons we thought it would be relevant to bring along is because normally leaders are wanting to know what's going on in the world. And then from there, some theories, some ideas emerge, some relevant topics where we can be equipped so we can be in a better position to address them. And it's always good to be updated and to be up to date on what are the biggest topics that are being out there. And that was one of the ideas today. We want to approach today's conversation not only with Dr. Al-Marie Donaldson, that I'm going to introduce in a second, but we also have the desire to explore through a conversational approach today on what are some of those trends that we've seen as we've studied around. We've checked on what are the major organizations around us doing, what are the topics they're proposing, what are the biggest challenges, and what are the things that people need to be trained for these days. So today, the way, the approach, and the topic that we're going to be bringing, it's called Leadership Trends. Do you know when to take action? Be a thought leader. So how to become a thought leader, not just a leader in your industry, learning to take action at the right time and be very clear about how knowledge is applied in every situation of your leadership and business, and then becoming a subject matter expert in your area of passion or field, and how it can make you a more efficient change agent. So Dr. Al-Marie Donaldson, I want to introduce her, and we've had the opportunity to know each other for a long, long time. She's also a graduate from Regent University, and it's a great privilege to be sharing. But today she is a senior capacity builder for Maryland nonprofits, Maryland Latinos Unidos, which is an initiative that helps a lot of nonprofits succeed, which is really exciting. Not only you succeeding, but also helping others succeed. She has an extensive experience leading, designing, researching, developing, and implementing innovative leadership programs literally throughout the globe, all the way from to China and some other initiatives all around the world. She serves as a subject matter expert for USA Higher Education for Economic Growth Activity Project. She has worked in different higher education institutions. She's designed, written, and implemented leadership programs. She's been part of the Globe Project at the Wharton School of Business and Thunderbird School of Management. She's a consultant. She, as I said, has worked also in the corporate world as a consultant in different organizations. And she holds a PhD degree in organizational leadership. So we're expecting her to join us in brief. But in the meantime, I think it would be appropriate for us to explore, Dr. Resemi, what are some of those leadership things or trends or topics that we're seeing? And the way I like to see these is that based on the challenges that the organizational reality is posing at people, at leaders, then we see some topics emerge. And so if technology rises up, what are we going to do with it? Or if, a pandemic hits, what are the challenges that it poses, and what are the topics that need to be addressed to equip people to develop the right skills, to develop the right perspectives, and to be able to tackle those new realities that are ever changing. And so if you don't mind, I would love to start by mentioning at least one of them. And then and I think it will be interesting to address and then to talk about that. I think one of the biggest topics is what's called generative AI and everything related to artificial intelligence and how is it gonna impact the way leaders, we're approaching this from a leadership perspective. So what are the things that are gonna be related to how to handle artificial intelligence and the fear and the anxiety that is brought to people in their jobs? Am I gonna lose my job because technology is pretty much doing the work of people? And so I think that's one of the things that people or leaders are interested in nowadays, not only in learning how to understand the technology, but also how to make employees deal with the fear and actually understand how they can, instead of being driven aside, they're going to be, their work most of the time is going to be leveraged, and how can they be more effective in what they do, in the way they make decisions and performance, and how that can be used as a tool instead of a threat. So any thoughts about that or any other trend that you would like to mention, Dr. Kelly, as we explore some of these topics?
Well, I definitely see that Dr. Donaldson has joined us, but just briefly, I think that training and development are going to be key things for leaders to focus on, especially as they help their organizations adapt and change. And AI is a big reason for that, and how to leverage it to our advantage.
Definitely, definitely. Well, thank you so much. Yes. Well, Dr. Donaldson, wonderful to have you here. Marie Donaldson, I've already introduced you, and I've already spoken hi about you and the wonderful exchange we've had in the last couple of years in different scopes. The three of us have the blessing of having had the same organization, I'm sorry, academic space at Regent University. And what a joy to have you here. And please welcome, and looking forward to hearing your presentation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kelly. I want to say your last name correctly. Please help me.
Yes, Brisme. Brisme. It's finally
Brisme.
nice to have an interaction. I am connected with you on social media, so it's so
I
nice
am
to meet you.
so great to meet you. Remind me of your position again so that I know how to address you. You're Dr.
Sure.
Kelly Reesme.
Yes.
And you
And
go
I'm
ahead.
the MBA program director at MACU.
Excellent. Well, I am so pleased to be a part of this session today and to have this opportunity with you, the students. And I just want to be clear, are the students live with us today? Are they able to hear us, or is this a pre-recording that will go out to the students?
Yes, we have some people live today, and we normally have more people even join as we record and make it available to the public, and not only to students, but to the general audience of that
As well.
connected to the
Okay.
university as well. So
Thank you. Well, Dr. Kelly Reesme and Dr. Jesus San Pedro, a privilege to be with both of you and with all of you students who are joining us today. It is wonderful to know that we all are invested in making a better world, and that's what's important. As we make that investment into making a better world, there are, I believe, things that are non-negotiables and things that we have to learn, not only as thought leaders, and that's going to be part of my presentation today, but also as administrators and experts in the area of business. Each of you in this training, in this webinar, are becoming an expert, a subject matter expert in some area of business. And I do believe it is important. Knowledge is so important as we continue to grow in the areas that interest us and in the areas that we want to be invested in. So thank you for that introduction. I'm sorry if I wasn't here quite for that. Hopefully you didn't read the whole thing, Jesus. I have been a colleague of Dr. San Pedro for a long while now, I must admit that at some point, I think him and I were sharing even some work together in various parts of Latin America. And he also has great interest in the GLOBE study, which I'm invested in and have been a researcher with them now for more than 20 years and continue to work now on the final phase, which has been published and will continue to be published throughout this year. Some of the latter and later research that we've done through the GLOBE study. So I'm going to go ahead and can I go ahead and share my slides? These are brief and
Please.
want to include everybody in this discussion. And today my intent is really to have a bigger and a greater discussion on this area on what does it mean to be a thought leader. And I brought this to the attention of Dr. San Pedro because I felt like as we think about our leadership capabilities and who we are in the marketplace and what we are doing and what we aspire to do, it is very important that we consider our role. You know, when we look at leadership and we look at what we do as experts in our field, we have to really consider what is our role in that field and what we do. Becoming a subject matter expert is so important because it not only allows you the opportunity to know a situation, to also understand what, and in this case, you are all in this MBA program, so you know the words like market, driving people into areas to understand products, services. Perhaps some of you have already written feasibility studies. You've done a number of things that have provided you with expertise in areas that are very specific. And that's what I love about MBAs. And I love the study of administration and management because it's very precise and very exact. But there are also areas that we have to be invested in as leaders, even in the marketplace. And here are some things that I think we need to consider as we begin to understand areas that move us, that we're passionate about, and areas that we believe very strongly. I'm reminded just recently of several areas of work that I've been invested in Latin America and also in parts of Asia where I have research groups. And as I think of the questions that I've set before you, we're going to go through some of these. I think it is important that we consider our role as leaders. What is it about us as leaders? How do we become a better leader in the context that we operate in? And as I think of my areas of research in Latin America and in Asia, and some of those accomplishments, they are enduring. These are things that I may have done 10 years ago. I may have done maybe 5 years ago. There are things that endure. And some of that endures not only through the work you're doing, through the plans, through the strategies that you're writing, to the number of things that you're involved in, even as a marketplace leader. But the things that are enduring and that stand beyond that is that quality of who you are as a leader. What makes it for you and what makes you committed to that piece that you are so invested in. So here are some questions I want us to consider in general as I bring this topic to you about thought leadership and being intentional and being a sector leader and being a subject matter and understanding your audience. Who do you participate with? Here's another piece that I think is very important, and I know you've heard this from our very own, and we all read his work continuously, Peter Senge, and who had that incredible opening to the model of systems and thinking of a system and the way that we do things, the intentionality, the process. But not only in the system, we think about the culture, the people, the organization that we operate in. And that piece of culture is really, really, really a big one. Culture makes or breaks a system, and culture, wherever you are, is highly embedded in a value system that your organization represents and that you represent. Thought leaders have always said culture eats the organization for breakfast, or organizational development for breakfast. So in general, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how many plans you can have. The value, that role as a leader is so important in your process of planning and providing strategic planning for those that you work with, that it is an essential piece of who you are and what you are as a leader. And so you have to think not only about what you're leading, if you're leading a multinational, multi-global company, if you're leading even a small business family venture, even if today you're one of these folks and people and participants who is thinking of that entrepreneurial venture, what's going to be my next big catch? What's the next big thing that I'm going to do? How am I going to be impacting the world as I move forward? All of that is part of becoming ready to be a thought leader. So here are a few questions. Jot these down with me as we think about the intentionality of our role in this world, in the plans that we have, and the businesses that we want to move. What future am I committed to making happen in this arena? It's a great question. What future? And when I say arena, think of it as not just the area which you work in, but whatever it is you're envisioning for the future. If your field is, Dr. Donaldson, I want to impact the marketplace. I want to impact the marketplace for Christ. I want the marketplace to change. I want the marketplace to be a greater place of outreach. Then think of that as your be committed to that. What is the future that you are committed to make happen in this arena, in this place of your vision? What is it that you want to see change? I had a student in a class who answered this question, and I was so moved by his question. He said, a future for me that completes this place of being a thought leader is having a future that knows Christ, that there are kingdom opportunities for every human being on earth. And that's a huge, huge goal. But it's also important to think of yourself. What is it that you're doing to make that kingdom building impact? What is it that you are doing in that context, that culture that you operate in? You heard me talk about my virtual teams and my global teams. I have to manage so many different cultures, and not only country cultures, I'm talking just cultures in general, value systems in general. But how can I impact the world for a greater future? Here's another great question that you should be asking yourselves as MBAs and as thought business leaders in the marketplace. What if I could make one change related to an issue or problem? What would it be? So I encourage you to think about, and I'm sure you've all written a business plan at this point, and business plans and strategic plans. I encourage you to go back to those that you're writing and ask yourself this question: what if I could make one change related to this issue or problem, and what would that change be? What would that change be? One change. I'm not asking for a lot of changes. I'm asking for one thing. What adjustment could I make to something that I'm already invested in? And how can I turn it around? See, very seldom, and this is just human nature, very seldom do we plan for the future. It's a hard thing to plan for the future. We're really good about holding on to our past, right? And thinking, well, we did it this way, so I'm sure it's going to work just fine. Or we might say, well, we did it this way, I'm sure it's going to be just fine. But little do we know, or little do we understand, that really what we say and do is impacting our future. And in this context, students, what we write in our businesses, what we do in what we call business is impacting the future. So I'm going to share this with Dr. San Pedro, and I hope you all can have a copy of this. I would recommend that you take these questions as we go through them and try to maintain that as a guiding factor of the things that you're going to be invested in, the things you will write, the things that you will do. What if I could make one change related to this issue or problem? And what would that be? What future do I stand for? What will I work to eradicate? Like I said before, I had a student who said previously in a session, I want everyone to know Christ. I want everyone to be a kingdom builder. And that's a big, big ask, but we know what it says in the word of God, you know, to the ends of the earth. The Lord came, his disciples were given the mantle, the mandate, you know, go to the ends of the earth. And that is possible, to go to the ends of the earth. As kingdom builders, we should be thinking about our business, about our product, about our services. How is that impacting the greater good of humanity? How is that impacting the kingdom of God? Here's another great question. What must I work to prevent from happening? You know, all of you have written SWOT analysis. You know them well. One of the letters in that SWOT analysis is the last one, T, threat. We must plan for the hiccups in life, but also plan for the things that may not turn out as well as we had hoped for. There are times that we have to really think about, what is it that could potentially go wrong in this plan? What is it that I need to change in order to make it better? Or what is it that I need to do to readjust and take my ideas and perhaps really look closely at things that could fail deeply and prevent something terrible from happening? What must no longer be allowed to happen? What injustices am I committed to correct within this arena? I'm going to pause here because I was impacted by the writings of Prahlad. I don't know if any of you have been introduced to him, but this is an author who writes about the inverted pyramid. And we know graphs and pyramids in business schools. And what I love about Prahlad is he is charging us with this question and saying, what are you doing for the least of these? In his inverted pyramid, Prahlad his argument is that as investors, as business leaders, we have not really looked at the market clearly in the way we should. And that a lot of times, a lot of the work that we do when we look at economies and economic statistics, we tend to make decisions because we think, well, where there's wealth, where there's more opportunity, our business is going to grow. Prahlad is saying that's not the case. we need to really consider third world, perhaps even impoverished world, and shift the paradigm of our business and tweak it and think about that economy, because Prahlad says that's really the multi-billion-dollar economy. And how many times as business leaders and business, as we think of businesses that we want to go into, our enterprises, we think big dollar, big capital. Oh, we've got to go for that biggest number, or that's the audience, that's where the money is. Prahlad is challenging us to think about, no, you have to think of the least of these. As the word of God says, think of those that perhaps do not have access and shift that particular piece of the market to serve the underrepresented group, the injustices of this world. Think of it, and here's a very simple example. I know I've got ladies in this room with me, and so if you'll probably resonate with me. How many of you love Target? If you are in the United States listening in on this session, I know I can get, if you want to show me with a heart, a happy face, whatever you want, or even if you're a man, if you love Target, let me know. Target's a great place to shop. We all love it. It has everything. And every time I go there, I say I'm going for one thing, I end up coming out with a cart full of things. So I've got to be really, really careful about my times at Target. And here in the United States, Target is a big shopping experience. And one of the things that caught my eye, and this might have been a couple of years ago, I walked into Target, and the first thing I saw was this beautiful clothing line. I walked up to it and I said, wow, this is really nice. And I looked at it and it said something to the effect, just as seen on Fifth Avenue with the big designer, Isaac Mizrahi, some Jewish designer, big name. And I went, what is Target doing selling Isaac Mizrahi? That's expensive. That was my first thought. But as I looked at the labels, I looked at everything and I said, wow, this is really interesting. That's precisely what I'm talking about. It's the shift that we have to make in understanding, what is it that I don't want to happen anymore in this world? What are the injustices or maybe the unfairness that I'm committed to correct within this arena and within the space that I'm in? Target and a lot of our retail industry has thought this through, and they've realized that some of the things on the market are just not attainable. I'm not going to be able to buy a $3,000 pair of shoes at a very high-end boutique, but I can spend $20 on a pair of shoes at Target that was inspired by the Fifth Avenue high-end boutique designer who has now collaborated with Target to make this product accessible. That's what I'm talking about, class. Be a thought leader. How do I make my ideas accessible for the greater good? Think of the world beyond your four walls, your community, and where you are. The world is much greater, much bigger, and wider. Here's another one. What malfeasance am I committed to undo with my community, company, or industry? What ways is it always, or what way it's always been done is no longer the way it should be done? Sorry, that was a big tongue twister there. And that goes along with the previous statement in question. What are the shifts that I have to make in my company so that I am accessible? How about now that we've gone back to prepaid phone systems, where we're making phones more accessible to a bigger economy? a greater economy. And now we are prepaying for items, making things or adjusting items to be paid over time. Many different ways that we can adjust our industry and how we think to be committed to the communities that we represent. That's my charge for you today, class, as you think about your business and becoming a thought leader in your business. What are the things that I can do to make a difference in the marketplace? And what is it that I'm doing to truly impact the world around me? What way the way it's been always done may not be the way that works well. Are you, as a thought leader and business leader, and for this matter, MBA student, ready to target a shift, to move out of what's been normally done or accepted to do something different? Change is a huge, huge, huge hurdle to manage. Whenever we think about organizational change, that's a bit, those two words are big. Organizations are big and change is big. And I work not only in the space of research, but I'm also an executive coach, and I work with companies and you name it. It can be nonprofits, it can be for-profits, government, non-government, industries at large, on this particular piece of change management, of organizational change. How do we shift the course that we're in? Well, first of all, I talked about a SWOT, right? We have to think about the things that are working, the things that are going great, but the threats, are threats things that we need to discard and move out of our way and say, oh, if that's really bad, well, we just need to ignore that. In my opinion, threats are the biggest opportunity out there. And if we think of those weaknesses and areas that we haven't done well, such as the way we've always done things, and the way we need to shift into something new and doing something better, then this is truly a shift. So the way we've always done it may not work all the time. So how is it that we shift our thinking? How is it that we take that obstacle into an opportunity? See, in our Christian walk and in what we do truly is we need to understand that when God presents opportunities, there are going to be obstacles linked to those opportunities. I think of Esther, a great queen in the Bible. We love her. One of two books in the Bible that are not necessarily written, but are named after women, Ruth and Esther. And 66 books in the Bible, but Esther in particular took an obstacle, a huge obstacle in her life. If we think about her life, Esther came from a very, very impoverished background. She was an orphan. She had lost both her mom and dad, her mother and father. She was being raised by an uncle. There was no way in the world that Esther should have been the queen. All the obstacles presented before Esther served as an opportunity. In addition to that, the obstacles that were that resonated in a very huge, huge way during that era was the Jewish people were under captivity. Esther was in slavery, technically. And out of that, Esther ascended to being one of the biggest names and power of the Persian kingdom. She became queen. We could have looked at all those obstacles behind Esther and think, she's not going to make it very far. She's, an orphan. She doesn't have resources. She doesn't have what it takes. But Esther and Mordecai, and more in this context, Mordecai did not let that defer his thought towards Esther and his upbringing towards Esther. He gave her the tools necessary to work and to excel in the role as a queen. If you read closely in the Word of God, it says right there that Mordecai would go before the court and walk, pace back and forth just to ensure that Esther was doing well. But I assure you that in the heart of Mordecai, he knew he had trained Esther well. There was a shift there. That obstacle, what, what man meant for evil or means for evil, God is going to turn for good. And you've got to believe that. The opportunity is great. The opportunity is incredible. But sometimes the obstacle is going to present itself first. And what are we going to do to make that shift? How is it that we're going to shift in our industry to say whatever was working is not working anymore? We're going to do it differently. Here's another great question. What do people not know yet that they must be informed about? In your business as a thought leader, what are things that you haven't considered that perhaps you thought you considered, but you really didn't? All of these thoughts are coming from a work that has been invested not only in the marketplace, but throughout the world, to think of all these questions. What amazing transformation has occurred and already occurred that you know about that needs to be shared more broadly? That's a tough one. A lot of times when we have great ideas and we think of great things, we think for ourselves, right? And we think, oh, we don't want, we're always thinking, how do we keep that for ourselves? And we've got to think, there's a better and bigger world. We can share our knowledge, and knowledge is power, and it will make a difference for others and in the planning that we do. I love these last three. What amazing transformation has already occurred that I know about and that needs to be shared more broadly? What new way of doing things have I created or learned about that needs to be more broadly adopted? And what future do I have to envision that others don't see yet? And that's probably my most favorite of the whole list. What future do I envision? Remember, the first one is, what are you committed to make happen in your industry, in the marketplace, wherever it is that you serve? But what future do I envision that others don't yet see? As a leader and as one who's leading enterprise and business, that question should be at the forefront of your mind on a daily basis. What future do I envision that others don't see yet? And a very simple example I have of this is parenting. I'm a mom, and I think of my children, and I think of the decisions that I'm making today. And my children are really young adults now, college age children that I have. My youngest will be graduating as a senior this year, and so she in high school. So I no longer really have children in the house. They are all young adults. But I think back when they were young and thinking to myself, what is it that I'm doing and how am I doing it that's going to impact them, their future, and what is coming for them? And as a marketplace leader and as one who's building business, entrepreneurial ventures, who's doing a number of things to generate services, products, whatever it might be, don't think just of today. Think, how is this product, how is this business, how is this idea going to actually support the future, not only of my family, my community, but also the people that I lead. And I end here with this. These are powerful questions. These are powerful discussions that we need to be having. I believe that as a business leader, each one of these questions are non-negotiable. You should be answering all of them, continuously thinking about reframing and reshifting. And so I want to invite you to do that today. What future do you envision that others don't see yet? And how do you see that? I want to invite you to think about, what are you committed to changing? What are the things that you are going to be a champion for? What are the injustices that you want to eradicate? What do you want to shift? Paradigm shifts completely that remove all kinds of agendas, shifts of culture, the way you do your business, plans, whatever it might be. What are you committed today, you with me today, to be ready to be a thought leader in the marketplace? What are you going to do? So, Dr. San Pedro, I don't know if this is a good time that I could open up for everyone to join me in a discussion. I'd like to hear, I'm hoping that this is all right. I want to hear a bit more from those who are participating with us in these questions, and hear from them. So can we turn the cameras and the microphones back to our audience? And I'd love to hear a bit more from them.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Marie. We appreciate it. Thanks for this wonderful approach to what it would take from a mind shift perspective,
Yes.
and from a way of approaching with deep convictions and exploratory journey into not only what's happening, but what we would love to see happening and what is not being addressed by other people. And so it's more of a responsible approach to into the
Yeah.
future. And I
Yes.
like the perspective. Thanks for sharing. And we're gonna open it up. I mean, we have a webinar format here, so it implies that if anybody wants to share something, it could potentially be a question, and we just wanted to make this available. If anybody has a question, or if a comment that we can elaborate on, that would be also wonderful. And also opening it up, Dr. Resami, if you have any other
Yes.
thought you wanted to share. I think it was fantastic to approach this and not only focus on the trends that are currently occurring,
Right.
but also how can we better be prepared regardless of the trends that are now, in order for us to be able to be relevant today, tomorrow, and in 10 years from now into what's happening, right? So
Right. Exactly.
I do have a question. The book, the inverted pyramid, could you give us the details on that? Is it
Prochlahad, and I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat for you,
Thank you.
Dr. Kelly. Let me do that. While we do that, maybe we take a question or two, and I'll go ahead, because I know it's a long name, and it can be confusing, but let me get that for you.
Thank you.
And I'm going to do a stop share as well, because that way we can hear better from the audience, and you're not distracted here with my screen. So thank you, Dr. San Pedro. That's exactly right. A collection of thought that helps us understand,
yes.
what are we
So,
envisioning? Go ahead.
No, and I was going to say that we do not have, I mean, we don't have any questions coming in, but I'm sure we can together just come up with perspectives on this. So what I like about what you shared is, and coming from a coach perspective, and also integrating foresight, strategic foresight into our daily routines. And it's pretty much forcing ourselves to be deeper thinkers into what we see in front of our eyes. And I've always said that greater opportunities are there. It's just about taking enough time to think through them, and to sit in front of them, to observe them, and to reflect, and then to decide to take action, and to take creative action. And so how would you, in this sense, or how would you incorporate this idea of creativity into the idea of being a thought leader? Because I mean, I can see both things, and a lot of people wondering things and asking themselves questions, and then there's a space for the innovative approach and response to these. And any thought you could bring along those lines, I think it'll be interesting to hear.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the things that we have to think about is we rarely, even as business leaders, we underestimate a lot of times the power of knowledge. When we think about innovation, and I think I'm hearing your question correctly, when we think about innovation, we think a lot of times innovation is linked to technology. And Dr. Kelly, I'm going to give you the name of that in just a minute. I found it, but I'll link it in there in the chat. We think a lot of times that we have to have a certain number of things in place for innovation to occur. And mostly we think technicality or technical type features, or at times we even think capital. It could be financial. There could be a number of things that we believe have to be in place for innovation and creativity to take place. But I do believe that it is necessary to know. And in this case, I presented to you questions for consideration in your knowledge building, and this will provoke a level of creativity. Shift in itself, going from one thing to another, is a way to innovate, taking knowledge, because knowledge is power, and that's where innovation begins. Innovation doesn't begin up here where we think we've got all the resources and where we think we've got all the capital and everything that we want. Truly, innovation begins from the ground up at a level of reflection and knowing. What is it that I know best? How can I gain more knowledge? Where can I gain more knowledge? Where can I invest more of that? And as I know that more, it gives me power to go into this venture now. And that's what feasibility studies are in the marketplace, right? I can say today, hey, I have this great idea. I want to launch, there's so many apps for everything, right? I want to launch an app to, I want to launch an app that's different than Uber and Lyft, right? And you just go for it, but you really don't know what you're competing for and who your audience is. And that's why I brought Pralahad's work to the forefront, because our audience is much greater than who we think it is. And when we are trying to be creative in the marketplace, like you say, and innovate, we really got to consider a broader audience, broader perspective. We've got tight, rigid, business plan rubrics and things that we've got to commit to, right? Finances are very precise, budgets are very precise. But what I'm encouraging you to think about is, how do we shift the current things that we do in order to serve a world? Because if you think about it, being a thought leader here in your business really requires you to answer all those questions and say, what is it that I've got to do differently? Like you say, Dr. San Pedro, the creativity behind it is not necessarily a bunch of resources. It could come really from a knowledge of understanding and knowing, very much at the grassroots level, at the bottom of the bottom. It's that social responsibility that I think about. I love the way companies today shifted their thought about industry and thought, oh yeah, we're going to make a lot of money selling coffee to a bunch of people in the Western hemisphere who can't wake up unless they have coffee, right? But do you know what it takes for you to have that cup of coffee in your hand? Do you know what? And I really appreciate it today as we look at industry and companies who take it upon themselves to say, this is really what it's costing us. There's a chain, and we all know about market chain. There's a chain. There's agriculture. There's a field of coffee farmers in a country of Guatemala. That's where I'm from. Colombia, perhaps, or Venezuela. That's where Dr. San Pedro's from. And there's a whole activity, a series of activities that take place that bring you that hot cup of coffee that you hold today. But if we don't think and understand deeply about the process, which is what I'm asking you to do today as a thought leader, we could be missing the mark in a lot of our creativity and a lot of the things that we do. Really understanding who our audience is and where we want to go, envisioning a better future. I don't have the particular, Dr. Kelly, and I hope I answered your question, Dr. San Pedro.
Yes.
The particular answer to your, I'm trying to get that
no worries. I can Google
title
that.
for you, but
Yes.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did Google, and I should have it right off the top, but I utilized it in another class I teach. It's called The Fortune at the Bottom of the Pyramid. It's Prahalad. And it is a concept that is based on the notion that global enterprises, through strategic partnership with people at the base of the world's income pyramid can be achieved. So I'm going to go ahead and link you to the Springer link. It's a journal. But Prahalad has many, many, many books out there on this bottom of the pyramid. And I don't know why it doesn't come up when I do the.
Yeah, but don't worry. You can send it to
it's
me.
the bottom of the pyramid.
Yeah.
You can certainly if you find it, send it to me later, and we can share with the audience if anybody
Absolutely.
is interested.
Here it is. I have a link here I can share very quickly for you, Dr. San Pedro.
Yes.
But it may not be just a book. It could be a list of items. Prahalad has written very much, a lot of titles around this topic. I think you'll find very interesting.
Awesome.
So
well,
thank you. I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you so much, Dr. Almaria, and we appreciate your presentation and your answer. We unfortunately we ran out of time, but we are so appreciative of your willingness to be with us today. I know you have some commitments before these, and right after you got to run to something. But we are so thankful.
Speaking in Dallas today, out of all places, delivering a small keynote for the International Leadership Summit with TD Jakes and team. So that's where I'm heading to right now. So it is exciting, precisely on topics of considering some of these questions. And actually, my topic is timing is everything. So considering when to take action and delivering some of these nuggets of gold that I presented today with you.
Wonderful.
So yeah.
Thank you so much. We're honored to have had you here. And, on behalf of Mid-America Christian University, the School of Business Leadership, our programs, we extend our gratitude to you and also to those who joined and that will be joining and to listen to this. Then in the recording, we have a wonderful audience that follows up some of the things that we've been producing, and we're excited to see how this is producing a change. And as we move forward, we certainly are thankful and are excited about what's coming. And in our School of Business Leadership, we have not only the excitement of having programs that help students to thrive and think deeper. And, Master of Arts in Leadership is designed for those who want that level of transformative, visionary, global servant leadership approach to transform the marketplace and to deepen their own understanding of not only from a theoretical perspective, but also from a practical perspective on what it takes to develop the skills needed to change the world and to develop the collaborative efforts. And at the same time with, the MBA program, both of our programs have an exciting set of curriculum and instructors and that have achieved in different arenas higher levels of performance and in the marketplace and in the academic world as well. So we're excited to be part of these. And Dr. Resamy, thank you for also being here. And if you have any final word for our audience, that would be great.
Just thank you all for coming, and I hope that everyone will mark their calendars for next month and join us on the third Thursday at noon Central Time, and check out the website. And thank you so much for coming in. So nice to meet you, Dr. Donaldson. Thank you for a wonderful.
Likewise.
Lots of great thoughts.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Dr. Alonso.
God bless you all.
All right.
Yes.
Take care.
I-
All right.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.